Hello, everyone.
Ready?
I hope you had a great day. My name is Marco Heijnen. I will be your host today, and today's session is building security remediation workflows for beginners, and it's done by my two colleagues, Pete and Lionel, who are learning experience designer at Jamf. Have a warm applause for them. Thank you.
Hello there.
Hello.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Building Security Remediation Workflows for Beginners. My name is Lionel.
And I'm Pete.
We're both learning experience designers in Jamf's Customer Education department. So I want to start with a fun fact. It's estimated that up to 90% of all cyber incidents are the result of human error or behavior, resulting in users representing the most vulnerable aspect of an organization's cybersecurity defenses. Another one for you. Adding to that, in nearly 1 out of 5, or 20% of security events, data exfiltration took place within the first hour of compromise, meaning time is of the essence when a security event occurs. So, we have to ask the question, how do we stop the bad guys quickly and efficiently when a security event occurs? And we think the answer is workflows. So, you may be asking yourself, what does that mean? For the purpose of our presentation today, a workflow is a predefined sequence of automated or manual actions designed to detect, respond to, and to resolve security threats on devices efficiently and consistently. To say it a different way, a workflow is a set of steps that helps you to quickly and reliably resolve detected security problems on user devices. Techs and administrators build workflows by configuring a series of actions that immediately change a device's condition based on a detected threat. During today's presentation, we'll take you through building 2 unique workflows, one Mac and one mobile, using the capabilities of Jamf Pro, Jamf Protect, Jamf Connect, and the Jamf Security Cloud.
So, this is Johnny. Johnny has just watched an amazing JNUC presentation. At the end of the presentation, there was a slide with links to additional information, which Johnny takes note of. So Johnny goes off to the local coffee shop and decides to investigate the session. And he joins the free Wi-Fi. Unknowingly, he connects to a fake Wi-Fi hotspot, which redirects his searching. So Johnny searches and finds what he thinks is the download link for the session he watched. Clicking the link for the session handout pulls down what looks like a PDF. Opening the file, however, results in something very unexpected. So, what happened? Well, the bad guys created a script to exfiltrate files. Now, of course, they wouldn't be advertising the fact that this was happening. To achieve this, they modified the script to look like a PDF. Then they modified the file extension by adding a space at the end of the .pdf file extension. This causes macOS to execute the script when the file is opened. So we want to build a workflow to detect this threat and prevent the computer from accessing the internet and sensitive company files while providing users with a means to resolve the threat on their own. To build this workflow, we're going to use 3 tools: a Jamf Pro server, the macOS security portal, the Jamf Security Cloud. Let's begin with the macOS security portal. I'm going to use an analytic for this detection. An analytic is a rule that detects suspicious user behavior and malicious system activity on macOS. There are currently 156 managed analytics in Jamf Protect. This demo, we're using the file extension begins or ends with a space analytic. So I assign a unique identifier to the analytic we're building for our workflow to respond to. The trigger we're using is JNUC. This can be anything. It has to be unique for each workflow. When Jamf Protect agent detects this threat on a compromised Mac, it will create a file. This file is picked up by a Jamf Pro extension attribute, which in turn places our Mac in a specific smart computer group. So for step 2, we're moving to our Jamf Pro server. In Jamf Pro, we need to add the Jamf Protect Smart Group extension attribute from the built-in templates. When I add an extension attribute, it becomes available as criteria for our smart group. In step 3, we're going to create a smart group. Naming it JNUC to be consistent, we'll use Jamf Protect Smart Groups as our criteria. We'll set the operator as like, and entering JNUC as the value, the same value we added in the identifier in the analytic. For remediation, this can take many forms. It could be a simple notification to the user. It could be very complex, gathering data, removal and storage of artifacts for later analysis. Here, we're going to do something simple by creating a policy called reset that will run a script to reset the threat detection. The policy will then run an inventory update, which will remove the endpoint from the smart computer group and reversing the rest of our workflow. We're making this policy available in self-service so users could self-remediate. The scope is set to the JNUC smart computer group, so it's only available to those Macs that have been compromised. Our next step, we move into the Security Cloud portal, where we're going to create a device group called Network Isolation. Using our newly created Network Isolation device group, we'll create a new content filtering policy by setting every content category to block. This way, when we're done, any device placed in the Network Isolation device group will have all internet traffic restricted. With the exception of critical Apple and Jamf services, these cannot be blocked. So software updates, the Jamf binary, and other essential services do still continue to operate. Step 7, we're going to map our JNUC smart group created in Jamf Pro to the Network Isolation device group created in the Security Cloud using UEM Connect. By completing this step, we'll direct the Security Cloud to place any devices in the JNUC smart computer group into the Network Isolation device group, and therefore applying our restrictive content filtering policy. Before we leave the Security Cloud, and while we're on the UEM Connect page, we need to create a webhook token and copy it for use in Jamf Pro. Using the newly copied webhook token, along with some details from the Security Cloud documentation, we can create a webhook in Jamf Pro, which will trigger a sync between Jamf Pro and the Security Cloud. Whenever a device is moved in or out of the JNUC Smart Group, Security Cloud gets notified. The sync automatically alerts Security Cloud if a computer is in the JNUC Smart Group, prompting that same computer to be placed in the network isolation group, and therefore applying our restrictive content policy. And that's our workflow. Let's return to Johnny's computer now that we have our workflow in place. Thanks to our script, our users now receive a notification of a security incident. Now, if Johnny tries to access the internet, he's unable to while the computer is compromised. To regain access to the internet, Johnny needs to remediate his computer. In our particular case, we added a handy automation, and Johnny can run that in self-service. With the threat remediated, Johnny can now access the internet again. So, a quick recap of what we have just built. When a file extension begins or ends with space, a threat is detected. So we restrict network access to reduce the risk of the device accessing sensitive company resources and data. Users are notified that their network access is restricted, and they have to remediate. Lastly, all restrictions are removed by the user without any admin involvement. Now let's take a look at our mobile workflow.
Awesome. Meet Jane. Jane works in human resources at any org and is trusting of just about everyone. Normally, that serves Jane well. That was, however, until today, when she received this email claiming to be from any org's IT security compliance team. In the email, Jane is asked to disable a passcode on her device temporarily and install a profile. That sounds legitimate, right? I'm seeing a couple heads nodding. No? You can probably see where this is going. As a result, Jane removed the passcode on her device, removing its encryption and placing the device in a dramatically reduced state of security. Now, granted, I agree that it's odd any org doesn't have a passcode policy on their device, but stick with us because it's a simple threat category for us to demonstrate here. The workflow pieces we're walking through in this presentation can be applied to over 24 other threat categories that you can utilize as triggers within the Jamf Security Cloud. So even without a passcode policy, any org has built out a robust response mechanism for when Jamf Trust detects threats. With the passcode removed, Jamf Trust detects the device's changed state, resulting in the Jamf Security Cloud elevating its device risk score to high, prompting Jamf Pro to push a new wallpaper and a workflow specific to the lock screen disabled threat category, which removes all apps from the iPad except for Jamf Trust, Safari, Settings, and a web clip. Keeping Jamf Trust on the device is super important. It allows the end user to view the threat impacting them. As you can see, they would see lock screen disabled. Meanwhile, the web clip can be used by Jane to open an Apple support article on how to set up device's passcode. Between Jamf Trust and the web clip, users are informed of the issue impacting their device and given step-by-step instructions on how to resolve it. Otherwise, all other network traffic is restricted, including Apple's online store, Google landing page, and even an any org corporate website, which we have an access policy configured for. You can even see there's a notification informing Jane their device risk score is too high to access this corporate resource. Now, all the user needs to do to remove the restrictions put onto their iPad is to set a passcode. As soon as the passcode is set, you'll notice that the wallpaper changes again. So, how do we do this? Let's dive in. So, step one. To build this workflow, we create a custom mobile device extension attribute in Jamf Pro, which we'll later use as a way for the Security Cloud to relay if a mobile device is detected to have its lock screen disabled. Next, let's create a new smart mobile device group called Devices with Lock Screen Disabled. We'll use our newly created extension attribute and set the value as true, the same value the Security Cloud will relay when it's detected that a mobile device no longer has its lock screen enabled. Step 3, we're building a configuration profile scoped to our newly created Devices with Lock Screen Disabled smart group. So we're giving it a name. This configuration profile serves as both a means to minimize the risk of data leakage while also providing information to the user that is helpful on how to remediate their device without engaging IT directly. We're adding restrictions for everything except for the apps Safari, Jamf Trust, and web clips. And we'll add a web clips payload with a link to an Apple support article on setting a passcode on an iPad. And the Settings app will be permitted as well. Lastly, you'll notice that we are scoping or targeting the smart group devices with lock screen disabled. Next, we're moving over to the Jamf Security Cloud portal. Here, we assign the lock screen disabled extension attribute we created in Jamf Pro to the lock screen disabled threat category as a UEM tag. Once assigned, the Security Cloud can relay the true value to Jamf Pro when a device is detected to have its lock screen disabled, prompting the device to be placed in the Devices with Lock Screen Disabled smart group and initiating the rest of our workflow. In step 5, we create a device group in the Jamf Security Cloud portal named Network Isolation, just as we did in our Mac workflow. Using our newly created Network Isolation device group, we'll create a new content filtering policy by setting every content category as block, similar to our Mac workflow. This way, when we're all done, all traffic will be restricted on the device. Next, we're going a little bit beyond what we did in our Mac workflow by adding an exemption to access that support article, support.apple.com, navigating to the Customs Rule tab of the content filtering policy in the Security Cloud, and setting the URL to allow. This is really, really important because this is what will let Jane access the support article via that web clip deployed via Jamf Pro with instructions on setting a new passcode. To ensure users cannot access sensitive corporate resources, which leverages Jamf Connect's Zero Trust network access capability, we can adjust our corporate access policy as part of Step 8 to only permit devices that have a risk level of secured or low. This prevents medium and high-risk devices from accessing any sensitive corporate content. In this example's case, we have a single access policy to configure. Next, we need to map our devices with lock screen disabled smart group in Jamf Pro to the network isolation device group in the Security Cloud by, again, leveraging UEM Connect. By completing this step, we'll direct the Jamf Security Cloud portal to place any devices in the Jamf Pro devices with lock screen disabled smart group into that network isolation Security Cloud device group, thereby enforcing our restrictive content filtering policy. In Step 10, we must select Enable Device Risk UEM Signaling. This is really very important while we're on the UEM Connect page. Keep in mind, though, you only have to do this one time, as it's like more of a global setting and not for every single individual workflow. You should also note that selecting that Enable Device Risk UEM Signaling will create a new extension attribute needed to relay device risk scores to Jamf Pro. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and synchronize Jamf Pro and Jamf Security Cloud portal, and it's a good measure. Before we leave the Jamf Security Cloud portal, we'll copy our webhook token to be used in Jamf Pro, similar to the Mac workflow. Now, if you're building multiple workflows using the same Jamf Security Cloud portal, you'll reuse your webhook token, as the Jamf Security Cloud portal only provides one at a time. So now, back in Jamf Pro, we'll create our webhook to run a sync between Jamf Pro and the Jamf Security Cloud portal if a device moves into the devices with lock screen disabled smart group. You may opt to configure multiple webhooks for various smart groups based on the threat, all while using the same webhook token from the Jamf Security Cloud portal. With the webhook configured, member devices of the devices with lock screen disabled smart group will also be placed in the network isolation device group in the Security Cloud, therefore applying the restrictive content filtering policy. And finally, we need to create 4 dedicated mobile device smart groups using a very specific criteria, which you'll see here. The criteria is Wandera device risk, leveraging the extension attribute that was automatically added to Jamf Pro upon selecting that Enable Device Risk UEM Signaling within the Jamf Security Cloud portal. This extension attribute displays a device's risk score as calculated by the Jamf Security Cloud. And there are 4 options: secured, low, medium, or high risk. So as part of the workflow here, you'll see we assign a unique wallpaper to each smart group to easily inform and show the device's status to the user. Alrighty, so a lot there. To recap, we just built a workflow that deploys wallpapers to the mobile device based on which of the 4 device risk scores assigned to it by the Jamf Security Cloud. those being, again, secured, low, medium, or high. When a device's passcode is removed, we restrict all app and network access, with the exception of Safari, Jamf Trust, settings, and a web clip. Most importantly, you could argue we secured our corporate resources by setting our access policies to only permit devices to connect with an acceptable risk score. Users are provided instructions on resecuring their device via a web clip. There's also a custom rule as a part of the content filtering policy to permit access to support.apple.com to access that specific passcode support article. And I think something that's pretty remarkable, the entire workflow is user-initiated without any IT involvement. So they're able to reverse those restrictions on their own. So, workflows, incredibly powerful. Workflows provide an effective means of responding swiftly to potential threats. While they do that, they should be considered only a part of a robust security strategy that also emphasizes user security awareness as well as other mechanisms of defense. Humans are humans. It is only natural for users to download a PDF from what appears to be a trusted source or following the instructions sent via email from what appears to be a trusted source. At the end of the day, humans remain the most vulnerable part in an organization's cybersecurity defense. It's crucial for organizations to implement comprehensive training programs that emphasize the importance of verifying the authenticity of digital interactions. That being said, by equipping users with the knowledge to identify potential threats, they can become the first line of defense, ensuring that workflows are in place as a safeguard, ready to act when needed. All right, so hopefully you thought those two workflows were kind of cool, compelling, maybe something you want to learn more about if you're not already doing something like that. So if you've enjoyed some of the workflows that we demoed today and some of the information we covered in this session and are interested in learning more, great news. We have a way for you to do that. First, we definitely encourage that you check out the Jamf 170 course, which is a self-paced online learning experience that dives into security-focused Jamf products. Along with that, we would definitely encourage that you enroll into our new instructor-led training courses, the Jamf 270 course and 370 course. The Jamf 270 and 370 courses teach Jamf technicians and admins how to make the most out of Jamf Pro, Jamf Protect, and Jamf Connect to create security-oriented workflows while also defending their organization from digital threats. So with that, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And we are up here to take questions.
Any questions? Hands up. I think everything was answered then.
Amazing.
If they have questions, where can they find you afterwards?
Yeah, absolutely.
With the self-service reset policy,
Yeah.
should that be made available offline?
So that's a great question. Does that need to be made available offline? As far as I understand, offline policies do not exist anymore. Maybe they do still remain in existence. Regardless, it would not need to be an offline policy because the filtering would not restrict a device's ability to communicate with Jamf Cloud in any way, shape, or form, as well as communicate with Apple's push notification service. But that's a great question. Any other questions?
So for the self-remediation process also, so I guess the workflow is like, okay, the user downloads a bad file and runs it, Protect flags it, they get put in the security group, they get cut off from network access.
Yeah.
But then they just go right into self-service and hit remediate, and it enables their network access again. What's like the middle steps there that actually ensures that something was done to make sure that this file is gone, this file hasn't done anything dangerous?
Absolutely, you're absolutely correct. It very much depends on what your objective is for your remediation. It may be something simple and they can just self-remediate. But as we were talking about, they can be very complex situations. And tomorrow we have another talk down a similar line where we look at those other alternatives and talk about those things. So absolutely, we could just isolate the Mac. We could then grab all the data that happened around the event. We could then upload that somewhere. We could then analyze it. And when we're happy that we know what happened, then we would allow some form of remediation. That may be something that you have to do, or it may be something that we could initiate through self-service.
When going through the analytics and setting them to add the system to the smart group, is it possible to do that at the same time for an entire analytics set, or does it have to be like each analytic individually? You
have to do each one that you want to use. So yeah, there's no do all.
If I change it for one analytic set, does it change that analytic for all of my analytic sets?
No.
Okay. Thanks.
Any more questions? That will be running.
So my question is, when you have a workflow trigger that remediates and gets rid of a bunch of apps on a device to leave only the absolutely necessary apps to do the remediation, when it is remediated and it is restored, were the apps just disabled or were they removed? And would there be any app data loss, users needing to sign in, et cetera?
So if I understand the question, you're wondering sort of what happens to the apps on a mobile device as during the remediation process where they're sort of hidden from the user? That's a great question. So it is my understanding that the apps remain on the device, the app's data remains on the device, but the user is just no longer able to see it. It's very similar if you actually hide an app yourself as a user. I think that's possible. It's basically the same functionality as I understand. So in theory, the app data would remain, the apps would remain. They would not need to be re-downloaded or anything like that if they were already previously on the device.
Any more questions? Then I hope everyone has a great evening. See you guys tomorrow. And one last round of applause for the speakers.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Well done, my man.